I like to chat about you a little bit about trees. I've always been attracted to them. And of course, we all find them beautiful, and it's very pleasant to be in nature surrounded by trees. It's just a really great feeling, not only a beautiful sight. But in recent years, I have managed to gradually build relationships with them, like with this one here, for example. um, this is a beautiful oak tree, and it's my friend. Um, a lovely friend of mine, Maria Zhuravleva from Maria's Universe, she was the one that kind of started this interaction for me with trees, like how she would touch them and kind of feel their energy and communicate with them by touching and just sensing them. Around the same time when she was doing that, I noticed that I could use my ability to see faces everywhere, which I realized recently is called pareidolia. I could use that ability and find the tree's faces, and I could see that each tree has a very dominant face, and this face shows a very specific character. And then I realized that I could connect to these trees in that sense of seeing their face and kind of visualizing them as beings that have bodies and features like humanoid in a way. And it's kind of opened a new way of connecting to them, because I could characterize them as something that I could perceive easier, that I could imagine easier. And the more I viewed them that way, I could see that they became more and more vividly close to humans in a way. And I could see that you could view them as creatures that have their arms up. You know, you can see them in illustrations and artworks quite a lot. But I could really feel it, and there were moments that I could really see the essence, and I could see what I'm seeing is not just a physical form that I'm imagining or I'm trying to find identifiable features in them. I could see like it feels that they're alive, and of course I know trees are alive, but I could see those features were alive as well, and as though I could see a spirit of them through that, as if they were vibrating in a certain way. And like anything, the more you focus on a subject, obviously opens up a bit more for you, and it's endless. And nature is obviously such a great teacher, and you know, you just need to, just the more time you spend with it, you're just going to get absorbed into it. And during the lockdown period, I started connecting to trees even more, and I could feel I'm drawn to sit by them and spend time by them, and you know, bring a little picnic and bring a little drink and you know, do my work. They became kind of my office, and especially this one here, which I would like you to have a closer look at. You see how it's got very generous arms. It's a very, very kind tree, very kind. And I sit next to this beautiful tree quite regularly, and I managed to do a lot of work done. In fact, I use it as a studio. If I need to record certain things, whether voice or videos, I come here, and I just find that it's got such a welcoming, lovely spot. And sometimes I've noticed that I mean, of course I've got other, you know, I didn't stick to one spot, but this is the spot I visit more regularly than ever. This is in Parkland in Crouch Hill, which is a disused railway that kind of been turned into a nature reserve. It has an interesting kind of history, and how people kind of campaigned to stop council from building flats, and kind of kept it as a nature reserve, which is a really beautiful act of community spirit. But anyway, I find this part of land, this part very, very, very interesting, even though it's so close to Main Road and Finsbury Park, and you know, it's surrounded by houses. It really feels secluded. It really feels that it has its own unique energy and its own unique bubble. So other thing with trees, I've noticed that one thing that is really enjoyable for me is to talk to them, and I would close my eyes, I connect to them, and I kind of, as if would have a conversation. You know, if I've got a question, I would ask them for advice, and I just can visualize these beings kind of giving me advice, or could just create a dialogue internally. And it's more imagining, you know, it. The way I would communicate, it's all in my imagination, and part of it, I'm fully aware that part of that could be pure imagination, but I'm all right with that. I'm all right with, you know, having a little bit of a delusion sometimes. Sometimes it's healthy to think that way as well, rather than just accept everything all the time. But I find that it's grounding me in a beautiful way. It's giving me so much focus, and it's helping me if I'm processing something, to kind of ask them for guidance and kind of just be in the spot communicating, and I can just talk out loud to them. And I've noticed that recently I'm just very drawn, and I personally, I know very little about trees in terms of their species and magical uses and things like that. I don't know that much about those details, but one thing that is very clear to me is that I feel drawn to certain type of trees, and the trees that I'm very drawn to is oak, and the other tree that I'm really drawn to all the time is the chestnut trees, and also I forgot the name now, ivy. These are the trees that I find myself just I get very attached to them, and kind of want to spend time to them, and I want to touch them. So it's a sort of a really beautiful, I find it very beautiful connection. Every time I notice that I'm really drawn to a tree, not out of 10 times it's an oak tree. And in Parkland, there is a lot of oak trees. There's so many oak trees. And I feel, at the moment it just feels that the energy that I'm very drawn to. And I really encourage you all to hang out with trees, you know. They're great, they're wonderful, and they have so much to give. And I always enjoy leaving a little offering, like, you know, bring a little nuts, or like whatever I'm eating, whatever I'm drinking, I just like to leave a little bit by the tree and kind of greet the tree. And I've noticed that I'm drawn to, when I sit by the tree, I'm drawn to, recently I'm thinking, you know, I could be sitting on a lot of insects or crushing a lot of insects. So I've started to make sure that I spend a little time kind of either making some sounds or movements around the tree to kind of maybe warn create a bit of a warning for insects or any other beings that are around there, just crush them, so not to crash land on them. And so I think it's really important to be respectful, and if I find any bits of rubbish around, I try to kind of take it with me to kind of help with it. But this park is well maintained, because they get regular, I'm sure, people that look after it regularly. But I think it's important that we are spending time in nature. If we could help out with keeping the places tidy and take away anything that we can that is kind of disrupting the nature, and, you know, the packages or bottles. And it's a shame that people would leave garbage behind, especially when so much bins are provided. But yeah, so it's just a nice relationship that we can all build up with the places that we enjoy their energies, and we appreciate them existing in an urban life. I think it's a real gem to have places like this. And what else can I say about trees? I've been spotting faces all over the barks, and I can see so many. I mean, it's not this. I mean, I encourage you to pay attention to trees. This is something that everyone can find. The faces in the trees, the characters in the trees, and what they are, I'm not sure. I've seen lectures about how they're, you know, faces of tree guardians or tree spirits. Maybe. Who knows what they are? I mean, I know that there are people that know a lot more about these faces that appear, and yes, they could be tree guardians, or maybe we're looking at fairy faces, I don't know, but it just seems that they're all part of the trees, and you can spot them. Just I encourage you to spend time and just observe them and see whether they show their faces. And to be honest, this lovely tree here, oh yes, I can see a beautiful face actually. I see if you can also notice it. Let me see. Can you see this lovely, it's a nose, that's the mouth, and it's like a long beard. It's like a proper tree spirit face, and you see that's the eye. It's a very beautiful profile.